to talk about with my patient. So hopefully we'll have some fun today. Constipation is kind of a topic where people can feel awkward, like talking about their bowel movements, right? But like I ask all my patients, like we talk about the things you eat, we talk about how things come out. So this is very normal for me to talk about. I won't make anybody give specifics today, but nutrition, we talk about what we eat and also how it's digested. So constipation falls into that category. So, all right. So I'll just start out with like just a quick definition of constipation. So technically, like having fewer than 3 bowel movements a week is considered constipation. So like if you're having like 2 or less bowel movements a week, that could be classified as constipation. Or just in general, like hard to pass stools, I also kind of lump into that category, like if you're feeling abdominal cramping, bloating, like uncomfortableness, and you haven't gone to the bathroom for a couple days, like that's probably a sign of constipation. Some symptoms that can go along with that, so yeah, hard, dry stools would be a sign. Like if you have to strain really hard to have a bowel movement or have any pain from like having hard stools. Also just that general feeling, like let's say you had a bowel movement, but soon after you're like, I don't feel like I got the whole thing out. Like that can also be a sign of constipation. And also like if you need any like manual maneuvers, so like yeah, up there, a finger to pass a stool. Anything like that might fit into the category of constipation. There is actually a chart that we use like in the medical field to describe someone's poop. So I'll use the terms poop today or bowel movements if everyone's okay with that. But this is just kind of a picture representation of what stool should look like. So you can see like number 1 and number 2 on that picture, that would be more of our constipated side. So actual like kind of hard lumps, or it might be like a longer stool, but kind of lumpy would be a sign of constipation. You see number 3 and 4 that has the green behind it, those are more normal looking stools. And then you'll see like picture 5, it's not technically constipation, so they're like soft lumps, but that can be a sign that you're actually missing some fiber. So, and then like 6 and 7 is getting more to the diarrhea type end. But like if anyone has ever seen a GI doctor or gastroenterologist, they might ask like you to kind of fill out like, what do you think your poop looks like? But this is, yeah, a scale that they'll use to describe bowel movements. So like specifically in Parkinson's disease, constipation is much more common than you would think. So at least, like what the research shows, at least like 40 to 50% of people with Parkinson's disease will have problems with constipation. So like at least half of us will, but anywhere like it might actually even be like upwards to 80% of people, which is like nearly everyone might have some constipation problems. We'll go into a little bit of like why this happens. So what can happen like in Parkinson's disease? So we have like cells within our intestines, and there can be like changes in those nerve cells. So that can affect how quickly stuff moves through our intestine. Another thing, so like you might be familiar with, okay, with Parkinson's disease, some of the symptoms might be like slowing of our muscle movements. So like they might talk about like looking at your arm swing. So if your arm swing is not as pronounced, like it's slower, or your walking might be slower, but just kind of that slowness is a feature of Parkinson's disease. Our intestines actually can experience the same thing. So our intestines have muscles, and those muscles can experience a slowness to it. So that in turn then means our stuff going through it is going to be slower. So that can contribute. There are medications that unfortunately have side effects of constipation. So that also factors into it. Another big one is just our activity level. Our goal is always to make sure people are as active as possible with Parkinson's disease, but if your activity level has gone down compared to what it used to be, that's going to potentially contribute to constipation. Fluid intake, which, yeah, so we'll dive into these more too, but if you're not drinking enough fluids, like especially water or other hydrating fluids, that can contribute to constipation. And then the last part kind of got cut off, but changes in dietary intake. So especially with like your fiber intake. So if you aren't eating the same types of foods that you used to be. So for example, if you've had some problems with swallowing, so you're not eating as many fruits and vegetables anymore, your fiber intake has probably gone down. So if you've had any kind of changes in your normal eating pattern, that can contribute. Okay, so we've defined constipation. So for someone that has constipation, like that's a problem. No one wants to be constipated. It's not fun, it doesn't feel good, and especially if it's more chronic constipation, which a lot of people I do visit with have because of Parkinson's disease. The good thing is there are some things we can do about it. So today I'm going to focus a lot on the nutrition side of things, of some things you can try. They're all safe things to try that can make a big difference with constipation. All right. Okay, so fiber is the first topic I'm going to touch on. What fiber is, it falls into the carbohydrate category, but essentially it's a nutrient in food that actually can't be digested or absorbed. So normally, like if you're eating food that has like some protein in it, maybe some fat in it, maybe you had a turkey sandwich or something like that. Like your body is actually breaking down those nutrients, so it breaks down the proteins, breaks down the carbohydrates like from the bread, but there's a specific part of it that's fiber that your body doesn't actually absorb. So it doesn't go into the bloodstream, it stays in your stomach and then through your intestines. But by staying into your intestines, that's what helps make our poop actually, is this part of that fiber. Fiber overall is going to help prevent constipation. So it is one of our first strategies. And most, I guess actually technically, pretty much, yeah, all of our fiber would come from plants. So it's going to be our plant-based foods that will have fiber sources. There are technically two different types of fiber. So you'll see on there soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. You don't necessarily have to kind of worry about like which type of fiber this food has. Honestly, most foods have both types of fiber. But what they each do, they have slightly different roles in how they work to help with bowel movements. So soluble fiber, just kind of like the name sounds, it actually dissolves in water or the fluids in our body. It forms this gel-like substance, and that helps actually soften our stools then to keep them soft. Another thing that soluble fiber does is it, let's see on there, it feeds good bacteria in our colon. So our gut is made up of all these different, like millions and millions of bacteria. Most of it is good bacteria, like we want good bacteria to be in our intestines. And so the soluble fiber helps kind of feed it and keep that healthy bacteria there. Our other type of fiber is called insoluble fiber. So it does not dissolve in fluids. But what this does is it actually helps to bulk up the stool. So when we say like bulking up, that essentially gives it like more mass or more substance. And the more mass that we have, actually the faster it can move through our digestive system to help prompt having more frequent bowel movements. So that's kind of more like the definition of fiber. And so then, yeah, so some examples. Like I said, you don't need to like worry so much about like which foods have which one. But higher soluble fiber type foods, apples are a great example. Beans, you'll see actually beans are on both, beans are on both sides because they have a high quantity of both types of fibers. Carrots, citrus fruits, so like oranges, for example, oats, and then peas. If I had to, on that list on the left-hand side, ones that I feel like make a bigger difference for constipation, just from what patients share back to me, I would say apples, the beans, and then oats. They tend to work well for constipation. On the right-hand side, the insoluble fiber, so some other foods that are great for constipation, the nuts, wheat bran, which is more of like a powder that you could add to things. If you are using any whole wheat products, that will give you some of the insoluble fiber. Cauliflower, green beans, and berries. Like I said, you don't need to know the exact, like the different types, but those are kind of a first starting point of some of those higher fiber foods. So if you're curious and you wanted to like, okay, I want to start increasing my fiber, like how do I for sure know what has some fiber in it? You could start by looking at some nutrition facts labels. So on the packaging of food, there's gonna be, usually on the back or the side, a label that'll have like the calories and protein and stuff like that. But it also contains the fiber content. Okay. I couldn't remember if I put a picture of one in. I don't think I did. But it's under the total carbohydrate line. You'll see a word or a phrase that says dietary fiber, and that'll tell you how many grams of fiber is in a food. So looking at like how much we should get for the whole day, here are the current recommendations. Anywhere from basically 20 to 40 grams of fiber, depending on your age and gender. I've seen like reports of just the general population that I think like less than a quarter of people in America actually get enough fiber. So it's actually a problem in our whole nation, just with the way we eat. But here's kind of the number you could shoot for, depending on your age and gender. All right, so yeah, so other fiber sources. And I tried to give some amounts so we can kind of imagine like how can I get to even 20 to 30 grams of fiber right now. So fruits, when I was like looking these amounts up, passion fruit is at the very top, but has anyone ever had passion fruit before? Ooh, okay, we've had one person. I actually could say I've never had passion fruit, but that one is super high in fiber. So I actually learned something when I was putting this together. Guava, it would be another fruit, but then we get into maybe some that are a little bit more common in our area. So raspberries and blackberries, that those have a pretty high fiber content. And then you'll see down a little bit lower blueberries. So berries in general are going to be a good fiber source. How many people are berry eaters? Quite a few. Okay. So even if it's something like simple, like I'm gonna add raspberries to yogurt that I eat. And maybe on there it says a cup, but maybe you do like a half a cup of raspberries. Just by adding those raspberries to your yogurt, you'll get 4 grams of fiber then if we did a half a cup. Or maybe you purposely put blueberries in your oatmeal just to get a little bit more fiber for your day. Then we have pears, or kind of fall there in the middle. Avocados. I feel like that's a food when I ask people if they eat them. Either I get an answer like, yes, I do, or I get one that, oh, I just haven't had it before. Would you have avocado eaters in here every once in a while? Okay. And all, like, personally for me too, avocados, does anybody find it's a little bit hard to have them on a regular basis? Like just when you buy them, depending on if they're ripe or not, right? And then you might have to let them sit on the counter for a few days to ripen up. And then you got to use them in a couple days before they go bad. But trying to keep, like, avocados are great. I mean, they're good food for other reasons too. They do make frozen avocado. Or you could freeze it yourself. Like you could take a fresh avocado, dice it up or slice it up, put it in the freezer, and then take it out later. But I know like at Hy-Vee, they do have diced avocado in frozen bags. Other grocery stores might too. I've just specifically seen it there. So that's always an option. And then kiwi. Kiwi's kind of a fun one. And it's not always a fruit we think of to buy, but it's a great fiber source. And then we have vegetables. So I kind of put some of the top vegetables. Within the fruit and vegetable category though, like all of our fruits and vegetables though. So even if one's not on this list, like I didn't put bananas on this list, they still are a good fiber source. But yeah, vegetables, peas actually have a pretty good amount of fiber. So let's say, so a cup of peas, that's kind of a lot. So let's say you did half a cup of peas at a meal. That's 4.5 grams of fiber. So you're already like a fifth of the way to your total fiber for the day. Artichokes have a decent fiber content, Brussels sprouts, then like kale, or I like colored greens on there. So any of your leafy greens, good fiber source. So maybe you start like, I'm gonna add some side salads with my meals a little bit more often. Or if anybody's into smoothies or blending things, maybe you put spinach or kale into a smoothie to get some extra fiber. Sweet potatoes actually have a good amount of fiber in it. And then beets I have on there, broccoli, carrots. Like I said, any fruit or vegetable though is gonna provide you with a good fiber source. So if you pick out like 2 foods on this sheet or on this page to add, like you're probably already adding at least 5 to 10 grams of fiber just by picking out at least a fruit and a vegetable each day. We'll go into like the 2 more big fiber categories. Whole grains. So this is going to be when we think of our grains, and when we say whole grains, what that like actually means is like literally the whole grain is used in the product. So if you buy whole grain bread, like the grain that it uses most often is wheat, but it contains the whole component of the wheat kernel. Whereas if you would buy white bread, they actually remove the outer layers of the grain, and that actually removes a lot of the fiber from it. So if you can get anything in its whole grain form, that's going to give you more fiber. Bulgur is the one example. Quinoa is one. I don't know, I have this like special, quinoa is like one of my favorite foods for many reasons from a nutrition standpoint. Has anyone had quinoa before? Okay, this is good. You guys explore quite a bit. Oh, is that sometimes I'll share recipes with patients that I visit to try some quinoa out. It might be like a quinoa vegetable salad. But quinoa essentially cooks similar to rice. So you kind of think of it that way. If you make like spaghetti or pasta, look for the whole wheat options. So they look a little bit darker, but you'll get some more fiber that way. Oatmeal, here again, good fiber source, great for constipation. Brown rice, yeah, we talked about the bread, or like bran type items. So like Raisin Bran would be an example, or other bran cereals are pretty high in fiber. And that's why like, and I know some of our physicians will talk about, like they may suggest to patients like try a bran cereal and have that every morning. But the reason being behind that is actually because of the fiber content can help. So, all right, and then the nuts, seeds, and legumes I kind of grouped together. Chia seeds, I actually debated like trying to bring chia seeds. I'm gonna show you guys a recipe towards the end, and then I don't have it like printed out, but I can definitely share it with wherever Joyce is. Okay, you're back there now, and you can always spread it to the group too. I have a couple recipes at the end. One of them will include chia seeds. There was actually a kind of like a social media buzz about chia seeds maybe like a year ago, for constipation actually. I don't do the TikTok thing, but at work it was like brought up. People are asking me about it. But there was like a trend where people were putting chia seeds in water and like drinking it for constipation. You don't have to go to that extent. I have a recipe to show you guys at the end, but chia seeds actually like are very effective for constipation. The fiber content in it can be effective. Lentils and beans, really any form of beans. I include like black beans on there as one of the higher fiber beans. Those are great options. So maybe to get some extra fiber, you are going to be doing, let's say like tacos, and you have like your ground beef. So maybe you could add black beans into your beef mixture, have your tacos, but then you get some beans with it. So that's like a way where you could add it in. Pumpkin seeds are a higher fiber food. You might find that in like trail mix, for example. Almonds, pistachios, pecans, all of your nuts actually though have a good fiber content. And then the last one on there is ground flaxseed. I kind of put chia seeds and flax seeds in a category together because they're used in a very similar way. Both of those though, chia seeds and flax seeds, they need some sort of moisture for you to consume them. You really don't want to do it dry. So if you could put it in like yogurt or oatmeal, it's a good spot to sprinkle some chia seeds or flaxseed, ground flaxseed in there. Or like smoothies, that's probably another good option. Oh, I did, okay, I was like, I thought I did. Okay, here's a nutrition facts label to show you guys. This is like the ground flaxseed, so this is what it would look like if you bought it. I should also like disclaimer, I might talk about certain products or brands, but I'm not trying to promote any as we talk today. So you'll see that one, that's just an example, there's many other brands out there too. So if you look on the right, you'll see like halfway down is total carbohydrates. So right there, that lists 4 grams. Right below that is dietary fiber. So that's where you're going to see the fiber content. So 3 grams of that is actually fiber. So it's a pretty high fiber food. If you're going to be adding some extra fiber in after today, do it slowly though. So don't like go add 5 or 6 new foods in one day that are high in fiber, because that can actually, if you do it too quickly, it can actually make you constipated. So it's actually better to add some fiber foods in slowly, like one at a time for maybe a week, and then pick out another one to start adding in the second week. So it is best to kind of increase slowly, otherwise it can, in the short term, make you constipated. I do like to encourage like food first. So if you can pick fiber from some of these foods we talked about, I would try that first. I will show you some fiber supplements though that can be handy as well. So I put like I said, I'm not trying to necessarily I'm not promoting any brands, but here are 3 of probably the most common fiber supplement brands that you would see in the store. Metamucil, the type of fiber in it is called psyllium husk. This one has had actually in the research world a lot of evidence showing benefits for constipation. So I would say like this one's a pretty good one to try, as well as actually the Benefiber and Citracell. They have different fibers in them technically, but they can all work for constipation. Citracell, the one on the far right, has actually a little bit more of a laxative effect, but it's one of those things like each person's body is different and each person will respond a little bit differently. So maybe you've tried one of these and you're like, fiber supplements don't help me. It could actually be beneficial to try a different one because it is a different fiber source. So these are some examples though. Okay, so we went through the fiber, now the fluids. The role of fluids for bowel movements is literally like to keep food moving through the intestines. Our intestines are like feet and feet long. And it's like they're wound so tightly in our body back and forth, but it's a long ways for our food to go. Food, when you eat it, It goes through our mouth into our stomach. Food sits in our stomach for like 2 to 4 hours, or can be up to 2 to 4 hours. And then we have our intestines the rest of the way down. And that can be potentially like up to, we actually just talked about this at work, but I think it's up to like 2 to 3 days food can technically like sit in your intestines. So it has to go, like your intestines are long and it has a long ways to go, but it needs fluids to move at a good rate. Fluids also work to soften stools, so to get that softer approach. So if anybody has like hard stools, increase fluids. Like that would be one of my first tips for you. How much should we be drinking to be not only adequately hydrated, but hopefully help with constipation? So the math gets a little bit tricky. I tried to keep it simple. It is based on someone's weight. So like we use calculations that use kilograms. So you'll see 25 to 35 milliliters per kilogram. Like that's using the metric system. Like in the medical world, we use the metric system, but we use pounds and ounces here just, for normal day-to-day life. I gave some examples though. So I kind of took like 3 weights and like how many ounces you would need, kind of doing the math. Oh, I did put here like the second bullet. Another kind of quick and easy way to estimate fluids is to take your weight in pounds divided by 2. So if you were 150 pounds divided by 2 would be about 75 fluid ounces. That's like a quick and dirty. It's not like as 100% accurate as the first one, but it comes out pretty close. So yeah, so for example, if someone's 150 pounds, we'd be looking at like 56 to 80 ounces a day. So just to kind of show you visually, like this is one of the water bottles that I use. This is 24 ounces. So for that individual, we would need like 2.5 of these a day. And this is over the course of a whole day. So it's not like you have to sit down and chug one of these, but that is quite a bit of fluids for someone. Especially where like I have people tell me like they maybe drink 16 ounces of water the whole day, which is like this much of the water bottle. So if you can even get to like, a full one of these and maybe dipping into a second, like if you can just start increasing your fluids, that does start making a difference. I see a lot of people have water today, so good job. And then as we get to like, if we do like someone who's 200 pounds, like 75 to 106 ounces is what it comes out to be. So that's like, well, 3 of these would be about 75 ounces. So kind of 3 to 4 to give you guys a visual. So it's always more water than what people think, but our bodies do need the water. But it doesn't have to be just water. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
Can you substitute iced tea for water?
Yeah, okay, good question. I'm gonna show you, some of these here on the slide count. Am I still coming in now? Okay, I might have been moving, or no, not. Okay, oh, there we go. Okay, I must have moved just a little bit. If it's decaffeinated fluids, then yes. So with iced tea, if you do decaf iced tea, that does work towards hydrating you. Or decaf coffee. Yes, Gatorade would, Gatorade would be a good choice. So yeah, okay, but like sports drinks, but my PowerPoint program put a martini, so it's supposed the picture is a martini. I couldn't get it to change, but sports drinks would be like Gatorade, Powerade. Don't drink martinis for hydration. Yeah, or like Propel, those would count. Fruit juice, like especially 100% fruit juice, is probably your healthiest choice. Or if you like a V8 or type of vegetable juice. Milk actually is hydrating. Any form of milk, whether you do cow's milk, soy milk, almond milk, or like a lemonade. Essentially think of like anything that's decaffeinated is gonna be a fluid that would go towards your total intake.
So do we cut out caffeinated stuff?
So you don't need to cut it out completely. Like it's okay to have, if you do a couple cups of coffee, But think of like everything else you drink, like your water, yeah, to make that go towards your total fluid goal for the day. Yep. Yeah, think of like the caffeinated beverages, hopefully more for enjoyment, not technically for hydration. Or if you need the buzz for the day. And then not only drinking things, but if you eat things that have a higher water content, that also hydrates you. So I know we're coming kind of out of soup season with summertime rolling around, but if you have soup, that has a water content to it. Beef broth, chicken broth, vegetable broth, Jello is primarily made of water, so you actually get hydration. Pudding and yogurt would also count. Applesauce is gonna have a higher water content. And then, well, I put watermelon specifically, like watermelon, I don't know, anytime I eat watermelon, it's like I gotta pee within the next like hour. It does have a lot of water to it. And then fruits and vegetables. So we talked about fruits and vegetables for fiber, but guess what? Fruits and vegetables will also give you water. So they're kind of giving you two things at once. Most of our fruits and vegetables are actually like, it's like 75 to 90% of the weight of that fruit or vegetable is actually water. So they're pretty high in water. If you do popsicles, smoothies, like those things would also actually work towards hydrating you. And the big question, okay, I know I need to drink more, but how do I do it? So part of what I try to do with it, when I sit down with individuals is like educate you and tell you like what would be best to do, but then we have to talk about how can we actually do it. So in my opinion, if you're gonna drink more water, you have to like make it a goal for yourself. Like you have to be intentional about it and decide, all right, like I am going to make sure I consume more water or fluids, I guess, in general. It can be helpful to know like how much water or fluids do I need for the day? And then have that as your goal. I have had some people who really like, they'll like take a jug of water or like a pitcher of water and like know where, okay, if I need 64 ounces for today, they kind of find the line of where 64 ounces is, fill it up with water, and then they continue to pour from that throughout the day into whatever cup that they're using. Because then you can kind of track throughout the day, okay, halfway through the day, hopefully I'm at least halfway through my water, and it can be a good visual to help you know if you're drinking enough. It's hard, I ask everyone, how much do you think you drink? It's hard to answer that question unless you've actually been kind of keeping track of it. So yeah, if you can have a larger container filled up at the beginning of the day, that can help. Water bottles are handy now, so if you can take a water bottle with you or carry one around. Sometimes like people will say, well, I, was gone for 3 hours running errands, so I like didn't drink anything during that time. And then you kind of get behind on your fluid goal for the day. So if you can take something with you wherever you go, that can help to keep you hydrated. Another tip that I'll give people is every time you take medications, especially with Parkinson's disease, carbidopa-levodopa is one of our main medications used. Like people take it anywhere from usually minimum 3 times a day, but upwards to 6, 7, 8 times a day, depending on the person. So if you're taking your medications, try drinking like 8 ounces of water instead of just a sip to get the pills down. Like that can automatically start increasing how much you drink. And then with meals, like if some people like, you might have a glass of water, but you might only drink a sip from it during your meal. Be intentional and try to like drink it throughout your meal. So when you do it with medications or meals, that usually helps develop a routine because you take your medications on schedule or eat your meals pretty much on schedule. Flavored liquids can also be used. So there's lots of flavoring drops or packets or powder packets you can add. So those are definitely fine to use. And I put a little note. If you start increasing your fluids, you will go to the bathroom more, okay? So just expect that, that you will pee more, but that's usually a good thing, so. And then, so this is my third out of 4 categories for helping constipation. Physical activity, specifically for constipation or bowel movements, getting up and moving, especially if you're moving your intestinal area. So even just walking actually stimulates the muscles of your bowel movements, or stimulates the muscles of your intestines. So your intestines your muscles are supposed to squeeze stuff through. So if you're actually like up and moving around, it helps that squeezing process of your intestines. It also can like limit how much water is reabsorbed. I don't know, it's kind of tricky. So if the water's in your intestines, it actually can stay in your intestines to keep your stool softer versus like too much of the water being like reabsorbed into your cells and bloodstream. So movement is good. Any form of physical activity is definitely going to help. Like I said, walking, any form of running or jogging, swimming, dancing, anything to get you moving. Even actually like stretching has been shown to help for constipation, yoga, and I don't know, like there's so many exercise classes for Parkinson's disease. So if you're involved in anything like that, that's good movement for those bowels. And then the last one here, probiotics. It's a intervention that is still kind of, honestly, kind of on the fence. Like it works for some people, it doesn't always work for everyone. It's still an area in nutrition that's being researched quite a bit as far as like what are the best probiotics. But what probiotics are, essentially, they are live organisms, or essentially live bacteria that help our gut, what we call microbiome. So it's like the environment in our gut, it's helping to feed it and make it healthy. The healthier it is, actually, the better it can help with constipation or prevent constipation. There was, most recently, I guess it's been 3 years now, but there was a study specifically looking at people with Parkinson's disease. They had one group take a placebo pill, which is like a sugar pill, and then one group took a probiotic pill. And after 4 weeks, they were actually only on the probiotic for 2 of those 4 weeks. But those that took probiotics actually had an increase in the number of bowel movements they had per week by 1. So that doesn't, you think, oh, only 1 extra per week. Well, if you were having 2 a week and you went up to 3 a week, like that's actually a pretty big improvement. So in Parkinson's disease specifically, there's, I would say, a little bit more evidence for probiotics than in other health conditions. So, and then in that specific study, it also improved the consistency of the stool, and they did like a quality of life questionnaire. So people reported better quality of life. Probiotics, the names of them are these like long names. So I kind of listed some of them, but the lactobacillus, which is the first bold word, that's one that you'll often see. For example, like in yogurt, contains that. The picture on the right is from a yogurt label. So you'll see, I know it's really small, but on the bottom it says ingredients, non-fat yogurt, but then below that it says 6 live and active cultures. So it lists them there, but essentially like yogurt has those probiotics included with it. Ideally, like I said, the research is still ongoing as far as what probiotics are best, but if you can find something that has multiple probiotics in it, like this one has 6 different ones, like that might help, like be better than just a product that has like 1 specific strain of a probiotic. So if we're looking at foods that have probiotics, it will be fermented foods. So yogurt is probably the most common one that people might consume. Kefir, I put a picture of it. Has anyone tried kefir before? Okay, we have a few. Okay. It's kind of like a yogurt drink, like it's kind of good. Yeah, like it's liquid, so you would like drink it like in a cup. But that has probiotics. You would find it near the yogurt, usually in the grocery store. Sauerkraut has probiotics. Probably not a food we eat every single day, but I grew up in Prague, Nebraska, if anyone's been to that little tiny town. So a very heavy Czech community, so sauerkraut, dumplings, like that was something that I grew up with. When I was a child, I hated sauerkraut, but I like sauerkraut now. So, hey, if you want to have sauerkraut every once in a while. And then the last one is kombucha. I put a picture of it on the far right. It's going to be a drink again, but it's like a fermented drink essentially. So they're flavored. So that also has probiotics.
Does it taste?
If you get one that's flavored, then yes, it kind of has a little bit of like to me, it has a little bit of like a sour type taste. Has anyone had it before? Okay, yeah, I don't know if anyone has like other descriptions of it, but if it's like fruit flavored, like you'll get the flavors of fruit with it. And then the last thing, these are just like, they're a little bit of kind of my random things I like to share that have efficacy as far as being helpful for constipation. Prunes and prune juice. A lot of people know that, but they may not have tried it yet. Both of those can stimulate bowel movements. The reason behind it is, so within the fruit of a prune, it contains sorbitol, which actually has more of a laxative effect. It's naturally occurring in it, and then it's also a higher fiber type food too. In my experience working with people, if you do it every day, you might see an improvement. If you just do it here and there, like, oh, I'm constipated, I'm gonna go drink a glass of prune juice, like it probably isn't, or it might help, but it's probably not going to. It's actually better to establish it more of a daily thing in your routine, especially if you've been having constipation for like months or years. It's actually better to do it daily. So whether you do a few dried prunes, or I would say like 4 to 8 ounces of prune juice is a good amount. If you've never used it before, start on the lower end, and then you can increase. Whole prunes technically might be more effective. You get more of the fiber part from it. So if you've tried prune juice and it maybe helped a little bit, you could try whole prunes if you wanted to. And then dates. Dates are kind of in that family like prunes, but they can also be effective for constipation. And then here, yeah, I have a couple of recipes here, so I can definitely share this with Joyce and she can pass it through. So chia seeds I mentioned before, they have that soluble fiber in it, so helping to soften stools. A chia seed pudding is an example I'll give to people. So you're mixing together chia seeds and milk is the base of your recipe. So like I said, it needs moisture for those seeds to absorb and become soft. And then you're gonna wanna put in something for some flavoring. So like a couple tablespoons of honey or maple syrup, some vanilla extract, and then you could put other things, any forms of fruit, chopped nuts, coconut flakes, like you can mix that in to give it different flavors. But those, at least the first 4 things, the chia seeds, milk, you'll want to like mix together or like shake together. Put it in the fridge, just when I've made it. I find it helpful like an hour or so later to like reshake it up again or stir it up and then put it back in the fridge for at least 4 hours. But I would say overnight is even better. So let's say you make it up, like let's say I made it this afternoon, like I would put it in the fridge to have the next day is what I would do when I think it tastes the best. It essentially becomes like a whole, it was liquid to begin with, but it's gonna be more like a pudding porridge type consistency.
Is it like rice? Similar?
Like the chia seeds themselves, or yeah, so the chia seeds are actually, they're like little black seeds. I would compare it to like poppy seeds almost, is what they look like. Yeah, so they're really teeny tiny when you buy them in a bag in the store. But then when you put them in like milk, for example, they will expand a little bit. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So here's an example of using chia seeds. I just visited with someone this past week who was having actually pretty bad constipation problems. And she did this 3 days in a row, like had a serving of it. So this makes a bigger batch. So you get 4 servings. You can divide it into 4 bowls and have it. She did a serving like 3 days in a row and didn't need to use Miralax for those 3 days and had some bowel movement. So like I said, some of these things, like they do work for a lot of people. Not necessarily everyone is gonna see the same effect, but it's definitely worth a try. And then here's one other recipe that was given to me back when I was an early dietitian, and I've shared with a lot of people. It uses oats, like the old-fashioned oats version, prune juice, and applesauce. So combining 3 things that actually work pretty well for constipation. Essentially with this, you'd mix it together. It almost is like kind of like a no-bake cookie type consistency, so it'll be thick. Keep it in a bowl in the fridge every day, have a few tablespoons of it, or more. You can always do more then. But that, for some people, works very well. And then, so today I'm touching on all like the nutrition strategies. If you're trying some of these things, or you're well-intentioned, but you're like, okay, I'm not being successful with trying some of these things out, definitely talk to your doctor. There are medications for constipation. There's over-the-counter products and some prescription-based products for constipation. Examples would be like stool softeners, laxatives, suppositories. Some people I visit with, though, they may still need like a form of a laxative, but if they add nutrition strategies with it, it's even better, or they may not need that laxative as often. So some people do a combination. They'll do some nutrition things plus medication. So we'll do kind of do discussion, but I'll show you here. So we had a boy, this is William, and just yesterday he turned 8 months. So there he is, and then he's 8 months old. Yeah. And then this was like last weekend when we had the nice weather, we went out for a walk. So here he is. We were at a park. So
Precious.
yeah. If anyone has other questions I always like to hear if someone's tried something else that they felt worked, but I'll go to, oh, okay, get the mic. Yeah, so, or he was asking, well, I think I'm a little fuzzy too. Oh, okay. So yeah, between like Miralax and Metamucil, like kind of what's the difference, or which one maybe should you take?
So I don't like it very much.
Okay. Yeah, so Metamucil is gonna specifically be the fiber part of it. Miralax will actually have like a laxative ingredient to it. The ingredient, it's called polyethylene glycol. But essentially, like, so if I ranked things, like your fiber supplements are gonna be the like gentlest product. So if you did Metamucil, Benefiber, the Citracel, that's kind of like the bottom of the totem pole. And then if you need something more, I would say kind of then you get into like Miralax is kind of that next level as far as like how effective it can be or how strong it is to help with constipation. The Miralax, so it's been shown to be safe to take on a regular basis. Although ideally, like if you can, just use like the fiber supplements, like Metamucil, it's a little bit, gentler on your digestive system. So, does that kind of help?
I just wondered why. Specific reasons.
So yeah, so a lot of times we ideally, like, we don't necessarily want someone on a laxative long-term. Like the Miralax, hopefully is something you just need for a period of time. And then can go down to like, yeah, fiber supplement or some of the food strategies.
I have a question. The more fiber you put in, the more gas you have, is that right?
You can, like, especially initially, you might see an increase in kind of the gassiness, especially if you're adding more fiber to what you've usually done. The best thing to help combat that though, is if you can drink a little bit more water as you're adding more fiber, that can help minimize.
Thank you.
Find the probiotics. Sometimes it's a number, so like 10, 25, 50, 100. Is there an amount that's high?
Not really, there's not really, yeah, like, you can't really, I guess, overdose on probiotics, like, yeah, I mean, I would definitely stick with the serving size, so if it says like 1 capsule a day, like stick with 1 capsule, but as far as, yeah, the quantity of how many, like, usually it's like, it'll be reported in like millions.
Yeah.
So it'll say like 50 million.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, there's not necessarily like, you wouldn't necessarily have too much from that. And there really isn't any good research to show like what is the ideal amount to take right now, unfortunately, so. But usually like any level of probiotic can be worth a try, yeah. Yes. Oh, where's a good place to find some 24-ounce water bottles? I feel like water bottles are available in most stores now. Like 24 ounces is a common size, but 32 ounces I see, like, yeah, you went over there, that one's probably at least 24, maybe, I don't know. Like your Walmart, Target, again, a lot of any of your like department stores or even grocery stores might have like an aisle with like more like Hy-Vee or would have, yeah, Walgreens, yeah, stuff like that. Places like that.
Found out that if you eat, well, for me, it works better. I eat peanut butter, honey every day. Relax.
Yeah, so peanut butter, like I mentioned nuts earlier, but nuts themselves or a nut butter then can definitely help. Yeah.
So you have a chart about how much fiber is needed. Why do older people need less fiber? Why do older people, like over 50, why does the requirement go down?
That is actually a very good question. So yeah, so it's based off like the USDA dietary guideline. And well, okay, I have a possible reason for that. So like someone's calorie intake for the day is generally going to be lower as we get older. So then kind of across the board, like your nutrient requirements go down slightly. Honestly though, like for fiber specifically, like even though the older ages have a lower number, like if you still push to a higher fiber content beyond that, I think that's definitely still beneficial. Yeah, yeah. And there's people like, when I like look at what they're eating, like some people get like 50 grams of fiber a day, like pretty high fiber diets. But it's something where like if you've been eating that way for a while, like your body will process it. So you can't necessarily get too much fiber, but if you add it too quickly, like you'll have probably some digestive side effects, but. That is a very good question.
Or
And a
like
good,
less,
yeah, we
maybe
can-
less.
Yeah, I believe that's probably partially why like it's recommended like that. Mhm.
Metamucil from the chemicals. Are they effective? They are powder.
Yeah, so the difference between like Metamucil gummies versus the powder, I know I debated putting like some gummies on there, but I didn't. The gummies have, usually it's like less fiber than what the powder has. So it really kind of just depends on the person. The gummies though can still be effective. So if you're one of those things, like if you have been taking the powder and you switch to the gummies, but then you're like, oh, it's not helping me very much, like the powder may be more beneficial. The gummies do have less fiber though per serving than the powder does. So you would really have to either eat a lot of gummies or do the powder.
Hi, what's a prebiotic?
Yes, yeah, so I talked about probiotics, which are like the live bacteria. There's also what are called prebiotics, and that is like a nutrient that feeds the healthy bacteria in our gut. So it's like almost like you could think of it as like the precursor to a probiotic. Like the prebiotic is the food that it needs or that your gut needs to be healthy. The probiotic is already like a live organism. Yeah, so the prebiotics is more like the food to feed the organism. The probiotic is the organism. Does that make sense? Okay.
Body so.
Since we're talking about nutrition, can you touch on the protein effect and the waiting period to help with the absorption of dopamine?
Yeah. Yeah. So carbidopa-levodopa, the medication that a lot of people use for Parkinson's disease, when that is absorbed, it can protein in our diet can interfere with the levodopa in the medication. So it's almost like we have two cars and they're both like racing to get to the finish line. But only one is gonna be able to finish, like we can only have like one winner. The protein, like if we eat too much protein, so if you eat any form of meat or eggs, nuts, peanut butter, like those higher protein foods, those can beat out the levodopa and prevent that levodopa from being absorbed. Yes, yeah. So that they follow the same pathway to be absorbed. So in our stomach, if you have your medication and protein in there at the same time and they're trying to be absorbed, there's only one pathway, so they have to like kind of like take turns. So you're not gonna get as much levodopa absorbed. So your medication may not be as effective for that next like 3 to 4 hour time period. There's no physical harm done inside of you, like it's not hurting you, it's just your medication may not be as effective. So to help make sure your medication is being absorbed, it's best to take the medication ideally on an empty stomach before you eat, and to do it at least half an hour before you eat. So if your breakfast is normally around 8 o'clock, like take your medication like by 7:30. So that way your medication can be absorbed over that next half an hour or so. And then you eat your food. So if you have eggs in the morning that has some protein, then it will not interfere with the absorption. Now, if your schedule is where your medication falls after a meal, it's best to eat your meal and then wait at least an hour to take your carbidopa-levodopa. So in general, like I'll usually we'll tell people, take your carbidopa-levodopa at least 30 minutes before protein, or take your medication an hour after protein for best absorption.
don't get the, carbidopa, how much, is Parkinson got to do with the, effects of the brain?
If you, with the, like. Or,
Or, Parkinson come from, a lack of nourishment or anything to the brain?
oh, like as part of the cause of Parkinson's disease? I know that is a very good question. They believe there might, like, some people might be a link between our gut or our intestines and our brain. Well, they know there are some links, but for Parkinson's disease, like they're kind of theorizing that there might be a link. So like early on before someone develops Parkinson's disease, if like potentially like if they didn't have like a good gut bacteria and weren't eating, eating healthy, balanced diet, like that could potentially impact the development of Parkinson's disease. But there hasn't been anything like, definitely, discovered in that area. Sure.
If you're in the hospital or somebody has surgery, could you just touch on the effect of the pain prescriptions and how that might affect constipation?
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, so if anyone would be taking pain medications, yeah, potentially following a surgery, or for whatever reason, had an injury or something like that. It's very common, so like opioids, they essentially cause constipation for the majority of people that take them. So usually with that, like we went over a bunch of nutrition strategies. To be honest, the nutrition strategies don't always work for opioid-induced constipation is what we call it. So usually you'll need like a form of like stool softeners or laxatives, which hopefully like your doctor prescribing those opioids would tell you, but they kind of have you proactively be taking stuff to like either prevent or treat constipation related to pain medications. Yeah. If anyone is on like chronic long-term, like indefinitely taking some form of pain medication, usually you're gonna need at least like stool softeners. So like a name of those like Colace or like the store brand version. Probably at baseline, you have these stool softeners, if not more. All right.
This has been a wonderful presentation.
Sophie's happy that she did as I requested. And put a picture of her baby up. And we thank you for taking time out from your family and coming to Lincoln to
Definitely.
join us. And safe trip home.
Yes.
If you return to your family.
Yeah.
But again, we thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes, and thanks for those that chimed in and told me you were trying some of those things already, but hopefully even one or two of those, or one or two things, if anything resonated with you today and you want to go try it out. It doesn't take everything that I talked about. Sometimes just one thing makes a big difference. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It was a very good job. And it was nice to have her. It's April is Parkinson's Awareness Month. So we appreciate you coming
Yes.
for our
you're
month,
welcome.
month of April.
We would need to, if I just close it.
So we'll take a few minutes and first of all, I'm getting in Gunter's,
No, you're getting out of camera range, so you're good.
camera range, okay. So it is a Parkinson's Awareness Month. The month is practically over, but on April 15th, Carla was there. The governor signed a Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month petition thing. And so that was nice to have some publicity, as we need to learn as much as we can about Parkinson's and to share with other people who maybe would like to be a part of our group. Couple of announcements. If I can get these papers apart. Um, I mentioned last month that we have the EBC books, and you can order them from Davis Finney Foundation. I also got a few in the mail, like 30 or 40, and have them at home. I did not bring them today, but if someone, maybe over at Jim's, we have some over here, and if we need more, if they could sign it and give me their phone number, I could call them and get them a copy. But these books are really nice. They have a lot of information about Parkinson's, and there's also one for care partners. So take a look at those if you haven't already seen. Yes.
I'm finding out that I am stumbling more, you know, and I don't know why. Is that part of it?
I would say yes, but that's just based on what I've seen and envisioned. But that could be something that you want to definitely talk with your doctor about and see if medication needs to be adjusted. Okay, in Omaha, on June 9th, there's a movie day, and it's a community event, and they're just, again, making sure we let people know that, we're here. Parkinson's community is here. We're working together to, change Parkinson's, to try to find a cure, to support each other in any way we can. Jana, thanks again. There was I forwarded an email last night. It's from the Parkinson's Foundation, but I found it very interesting. It's the ABCs of Parkinson's, and for every letter of the alphabet, they say something about Parkinson's. And I just thought it was very interesting. For example, A was anxiety, and B was balance, and C was care partners. And you can go to this site and you can just click on the letter, the little thing flips around and shows you the information on that letter. So we were very fortunate to have so many groups who are supplying us information. Davis Finney Books, the Parkinson's Foundation information, and of course, Michael J. and on and on and on. So sent this out last night, hoping you would also find information that would be helpful for you. Oh, did you notice that our parking lot, our entrance into this building has improved? It used to be bumpy and lumpy. Well, a few months ago, Judy mentioned that it was, at sometimes those parking lots are kind of difficult to handle with, especially with walkers or wheelchairs, and you're bouncing around. In fact, last year or so, Rich and I went to the place over here, and not over here, but over there. And I was pushing his wheelchair, and I hit a hole, and he went this way, and I went this way. Fortunately, he did not land out of that wheelchair. But this was having a similar problem, and the board met and decided to talk to the church about that, and Sally, our go-between, mentioned it to them, and we gave a donation for the church to fix it. And today it looks so much better than it has. Hallelujah, we've got some hallelujahs going. So we really appreciate it, but we also Sally got this card. Thank you again for your generous donation for the cement repair outside of door 4 here at the Sheridan Lutheran Church. We appreciate the good work that you do for those affected by Parkinson's disease. Blessings, Karen and the staff of Sheridan Lutheran Church. So thank you.
And they gave us cake, but.
Oh, they gave us a cake. So when I quit talking, people can go over and get cake and something to drink. Are there other announcements?
I don't want.
Well, come on over.
We have several new members.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So,
You want to hit that first?
no, I'll hit you first.
Okay, next month, due to conflicts, we are not going to be able to use the great room, but the church is going to let us use their family life center. and it's got the same hookup. They'll have tables and everything for us. I've got a map here. This is where we are today. That's the Family Life Center, and I know you can't see it, but we will be going through door 1 or door 2, the main entrances there in the church. But I did make some maps if you guys want to take these with you, and we'll have signs by the doors again.
Can you send it by email?
Yeah, I have that. And afterwards, I said I'd take you in there and you could look over the place to see what you need for your computer.
We'd like to welcome the people on Zoom too today. And thanks, Jim, for reminding us. We have several people new with us today, so raise your hand so you can introduce yourself.
I'm Margaret or Peg French.
Yeah.
I'm Margaret or Paige French, and this is my husband Monty. Parkinson's is a mean thing.
We're in this together, for sure. We're in this together. And that's why I enjoy this meeting so much, because we have support. Okay, we've got more.
My name is John Madrell, and my better half, Pat, came with me today. In fact, it's a good idea. And see where it's okay.
That's good. And Pat, we're glad you got him here today. And we want you to come back next month too, okay?
I'm Mary Beth Johnson. I live alone.
Well, we welcome you. So much. Oh, I see.
We came today, and Roy Mitchell and my wife Glenn.
Welcome. Okay, more hands.
John and Pat McGill from Waverly. Yeah, okay.
Here's that. Here's another one.
Chuck Purdue from Lincoln.
Welcome, welcome. Do I see more new people over here? I see red and white tags, but Diane's gone and hasn't gotten some of the permanent name tags done, so she'll be back. I think she's in Greece or something. Poor thing. So any other, next month, we will, as she said, we'll be in this building, but a different room. And that will be May 26th. And if I'm right, Sarah Lockhart from Madonna will discuss the big program, which is a wonderful program to know about and to be a part of. Gunter, thanks for the Zoom. Sally, thanks for the refreshments. Oh, you guys keep Bob Shire and Gail Hankins in your thoughts and prayers. Bob fell down a flight of stairs a few weeks ago, broke his neck, and was at UNMC with they plated it. And fortunately, he has done fairly well. He's now back in Lincoln at Madonna getting rehab. And we sure hope that he can progress nicely, because they're supposed to go abroad in June for their son's wedding. So please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Is there anything else? Oh, yes. I see a finger.
This is my second time here. I'm Vernell Clausen from Lincoln.
Welcome, come back. Okay, now we'll divide into our two groups. Those with Parkinson's will be in this big room and the care partners will be in the kitchen. And those of you who are gonna go in the kitchen, get your food out here because there's no food in the kitchen. And we look forward to seeing you next month.